Hello and welcome once again to my studio here in central UK. This is video number 4, I think, episode 4 in the Don't Buy Yarn Without Watching This Video First series. Today we're going to talk about cellulosic fibres like viscose and rayon and all that kind of stuff, so stay tuned. So, a couple of things to get out of the way first before we talk about that little bit more hate. Come in. This was nasty, and it was underhand hate. There's a couple of things. One, asking, what the hell do I think I'm doing knitting as a man because it's for women? What? Do your research, love. Go back and have a look at the history of knitting. It was traditionally, way back with the knitting guilds and all that, it was actually only men that did it. It was considered in those days highly inappropriate for women to knit. And then as we got on, we had wars and all that kind of stuff where then women and children were knitting socks for the soldiers, and that's where it started really. The men were off at war and the women were doing the knitting. They were used to knit in public to show their support for the soldiers, and that's really where it started to turn into a more gender specific craft. Who cares? I find that really odd, really odd, that people think it's odd that a man should knit. I think that's very strange indeed, but we won't talk about any more about that because I'll get into trouble. There was a little gift that came in to me this week that I want to share with you. I'll just pop over there now, just pop over and have a little look. If you've watched over the past 60 odd videos, you'll see that very rarely do I recommend anybody's products to you. I did a little while ago do a yarn subscription box that I was very impressed with. So going back a few weeks, I just happened to mention as a throwaway comment on here that knitting was giving me eye strain and that, you know, my eyes were sore. And I also said that, you know, a throwaway comment about the bags under my eyes and how the light here shows that up. So as a result of that, my friends over at Bob and Brad sent me this to have a look at. The Eye Oasis 3 Elite Eye Massager, and it says the real massager for real relief. And I thought, yeah, right. I've tried all sorts of things. So I thought I'm gonna give it a go. So when I opened it, the first thing that I noticed, one, you know, how nice the packaging is. It really is lovely. But also the quality of everything. There's it comes in a padded bag, you know, with their branding on and like a double zip. You know, I thought, oh, okay, there's some weight to it as well. It's not a light thing at all. And then on opening it, realise, you know, this is no cheap piece of stuff. This really is quality. It really is. So I was kind of impressed to start with and couldn't wait to try it. In the bag, as well as this thing, is also a mask that you can put in the fridge to cool. So you can have it as a cooling mask. In the main unit, inside here, you can turn this on so that it warms. So you've got a choice of either, you know, heat or cooling. There's also sound in there. There's some relaxing music. There's kind of white noise, all kinds of things. And I thought, you know, this really does look quite interesting. I wonder how it works. So you just hold the button for a little while.
Eye massager is on.
It tells you what it is.
Air pressure plus heat plus music.
So it's telling me there's air pressure plus heat plus music. And as soon as I put this on, my first impression was, whoa, that's comfortable. I can now feel it starting to get warm, and the air pressure part of it that it spoke about, it's actually massaging under my eyes and my temples. Oh, that's nice. And I'm going to start and dribble in a minute. It's so lovely. It's now getting quite warm. That feels really nice. I can feel that relieving the sinuses already. It goes through different modes, so it's not the same massage sequence all the time. That keeps changing, which is also lovely. I don't know if you can hear the music, but it's quite nice. The volume is perfect for me inside here. Oh, that's really relaxing. So I think this video might be just me in this lovely eye mask. It really is. It really is lovely. Oh. I'm starting now to not remember what I was going to talk to you about, because I just want to sit here with this on. So, as well as having the music in the unit, you can also link this to your phone, so you can put any music on that you like. I haven't done that because actually the music that it plays just on the startup mode is really relaxing. It's lovely. You can adjust the heat and the pressure and the volume and which music you want to play. You can adjust all of that in there. Oh. There's a timer on. I believe it's it does it for 15 minutes. That goes really quickly, especially as the last few days that I've been trying it out, I've actually nodded off while it's been on, because it is just so relaxing. This, honestly, I can't recommend this highly enough. I don't know why I've not discovered this before. So, oh dear, that light's bright now. I've done that. Let's turn that off. Hold on. Ooh. That feels really nice. It really does. I'm fit for nothing now. So, like I say, I don't recommend things very often, but when I discover something like that, thank you so much, Bob and Brad, for sending me this. It's a revelation, honestly. But when I discover something like that, I do feel that I want to share it with you. So I'm going to pop all the information for you in the description. If you use, they've sent me, for my viewers, a 10% off code. which is brilliant. Bob and Brad 15. I'm going to put that in the description as well. So make sure that if you want to order, that you use your code, because you'll get 10% off then. And honestly, those who knows me knows, if you've watched the videos before, I'm really honest. I wouldn't recommend this product to you unless I thought it was really good. I'm really happy that they've sent me more. Keep it coming. However, you know, any company who's out there who thinks I'm going to send this to Simon, let him have a look. If it isn't any good, I'm gonna say. So anyway, back to the main topic. So today's subject, Jan, is cellulose fibres. This gets a little bit confusing to a lot of people because it kind of comes under the category of man-made fibres, which people instinctively think, "Wow, that's bad, that's bad." However, cellulose or cellulosic fibres are derived from cellulose, which is a natural polymer that's found in plants, and that includes natural fibres like cotton and linen. They come under the cellulosic banner, but they also include man-made ones like, you know, rayon, viscose, modal, lyocell. All of those come under the same category. The people think, oh, that's okay then because they're made from plants and all that kind of stuff. However, cellulosic fibres mostly are produced chemically by dissolving materials such as wood pulp or bamboo in quite a strong toxic solution, and then reforming it into fibres through an extrusion and spinning process. However, you know, chemicals aside, the fibres actually are known for their biodegradability. They break down very quickly in the environment. Things like, you know, I've had people say to me, oh, you know, be kind to the environment, use bamboo fibre. Bamboo is the, you know, the latest thing. They make these things from all kinds of things. Milk, you know, they're making yarn from now, all done in a very similar way. And people seem to think, you know, because they're made from these naturally derived raw materials, that they are better for the environment. Then that's not always the case. So I'll leave you to do a little bit of research yourself on those things, just to see. There are so many of them, and quite often, you know, these fibres are mixed with other things, you know, like wool. And, it's a thing for you ethically to decide yourself if you want to use these things or not. Cellulose fibres actually are able to be recycled. So again, keep saying this over and over again, wherever you can, buy recycled or repurposed, and then you're saving all of those things from going off into landfill. Back to bamboo fibre. The fibre itself doesn't actually come from. People think, you know, if you tear bamboo open, there's all these little strands inside, and people think that's where it comes from. It actually doesn't. It's highly processed. It goes through quite a lot of stuff to turn the whole of the bamboo plant into pulp, and it's actually not as environmentally friendly as it first appears. However, bamboo grows extremely quickly, and, you know, it is sustainable. But in its manufacture, it does use things that aren't particularly kind to the environment. As we get on and people are starting to become more aware of these things, and consumers are demanding that we start to look at more environmentally conscious products, there is innovation. In Finland especially, it's long created wealth from its forestry industry, and there is a company over there, Spinova, that turns wood into recyclable fibres, but they're not using chemical processing, and they're not using excessive water or energy in the production of these things. So apparently the technology consumes 99% less water than cotton in its production. And unlike other cellulistic fibres, like, for example, viscose, their method uses no harmful dissolution chemicals that reduce the wood into the pulp and polymer level to regenerate cellulose filaments. The fashion industry as a whole, there is registered over 8,000 synthetic chemicals as a whole that we put into processing various fibres. So we really need to start to have a little look at what damage those chemicals, and what damage us demanding this throwaway fashion that we all seem to be into. We need to start just to have a little look really at that, and that starts really with the consumer. So if we start demanding safer alternatives and kinder alternatives to the environment, then the manufacturers will follow along. So again, just literally scratching the surface, just giving you a little tease, a little bit of information about those things. You'll notice that I didn't particularly in this series touch on silk, so I'll mention a little bit about that. Now, silk is one of the least processed, or it goes through the least processing of pretty much all or any fibre. It's unwound from the silk cocoons and spun into thread. That's kind of it, really. It's not particularly kind to the little caterpillar that's inside. So some people have an issue with that, but in its whole processing, it's one of the kindest to the environment. There are different grades of silk depending on what the caterpillars are fed on. Mulberry silk, if you see that mentioned, that's usually the best. There's very nice, there's oak fed silk is another one that's made in very small quantities. You can get silk that is they wait until the larva has hatched, but because that breaks down the silk threads, there's a more processing is involved in that, and also the fibre is much weaker. So have a little look yourself. There's not a lot of silk in that's available to knit with. We can get the rough Aurora silks, Tussar silk, for example, that's mixed with things, but it's not overused. And going back to the cellulosic fibres, a lot of those mimic very closely the silk I think rayon, when it was first invented, was actually made specifically to mimic the qualities of silk. So that's a little bit about that. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I've just knocked the computer and we all went wibbly wobbly there for a minute. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the hate that it's brought in. In the comments, if you want to comment about what you'd like to see next, or if you feel I've missed anything out, bearing in mind this wasn't too in-depth, this series. It's just to give you a little idea about the yarns that we're using and what goes into the production of them. I did have a little somebody mention about the yarn weights that I said, and they were going, why can't we all use just the number system? Well, that's specifically the Craft Association of America's system. America being the operative word there. People do knit in other countries, and we all have our own our own system of yarn weighting. It would be handy, because now we're very much a global community, so it would be handy if we all use the same, but we don't, and we're not necessarily, I got into trouble because I mentioned DK and 4-ply, and somebody said, why can't you talk in American, was their actual words. I don't know what that is. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm not even gonna go there either. So if you've enjoyed this video and you've enjoyed me, please like and subscribe. Honestly, it really does help out the channel, and I really do appreciate you doing that. Pop over to my Patreon site and have a little look over there and see what's going on. We're just doing a project together, all of my lovelies over there, that we somebody said they'd like to see a cable sweater. So what I've done, I've asked, are these cables okay, and then do you want a cardigan, do you want a jumper, and then I'm designing that as we go along, and they're following what I'm doing. So pop over there and have a little look. So in the meantime, happy yarn smithing. Very much love as always, whether you're sending me hate or not. And I'm going to see you really soon. Bye.